Joseph LANCIA. Joseph LANCIA had ascended to the top position of the Rhode Island chapter of the Hells Angels Biker Club about 4 years ago. He was in handcuffs and was led from a Providence Superior courtroom to begin serving his 5-year prison sentence. He pleaded no contest to the charge of felony assault and battery and carrying a gun without a license. As part of the agreement, the more serious charges of using a firearm during a violent crime and assault with the intent to murder were dropped. Judge Kristen Roger asked LANCIA if he had anything to say before serving his punishment. LANCIA replied nothing. When LANCIA leaves the Cranston Adult Correctional Institution, he will be put on 10 years of probation. LANCIA's main case came from an incident in June 2019. He fired a gun at a truck driven by Richard Starnino. Starnino was once a prospect who wanted to join the biker club and had an ongoing dispute with LANCIA. From the video surveillance, you can clearly see LANCIA shooting at the truck while Starnino was driving by the Hells Angels Providence headquarters on Messer Street. The video evidence was from the clubhouse's own security system. While investigating into the shootout, it led to a daytime raid by the Rhode Island State Police. Hundreds of Hells Angels in full uniform were there for the sentence. And as LANCIA's wrists were being cuffed, he nodded to another member and grinned at them. He was led through the door by a sheriff and was brought to the ACI. Adam Lee Hall. Hall is known as a ranking member of the local Hells Angels Club, along with his 2 accomplices, David Kalu and Kai Suevos. They were convicted of first-degree murder in 2014. Victims David Glasser, Edward Frampton, and Robert Chadwell were all shot at Glasser's Pittsville home. Their bodies were found dismembered and placed in plastic bags. They were transported in Hall's Buick to rural Beckett, and they were buried in a ditch. They were last seen alive in the evening of August 27, 2011. Investigators and authorities discovered their dismembered bodies 13 days later. Hall's co-defendants testified that Hall was the mastermind of the killing. A man who was afraid of Hall was charged as an accessory said he helped them dispose of the bodies. While Adam Lee Hall was convicted of 3 first-degree murders, he requested for a new trial but was rejected. But Hall's being guilty of kidnapping one of the victims a year before was ruled out. The killings were called the murders of the 3 Pittsfield. It was filled with depravity and no human dignity. The Hampton Superior Court judge, who sentenced Adam Lee Hall to 3 consecutive life sentences, said the crimes were different from anything he had seen before in his job. Judge Kinder said that Hall preyed upon the 2 victims he had dismembered, Glasser and Edward Frampton. David Kalu. He was the second person convicted in the brutal killings of the 3 Pittsfield men. He had already been sentenced to life in prison without parole in August 2011. He was convicted on all 9 counts, 3 counts each of murder, witness intimidation, and kidnapping by a Hampton Superior Court jury. When the 12 jurors were randomly selected, one lady admitted that she had to reach that conclusion despite the fact that the verdict appeared to be reached. Kalu was one of the 3 men accused of kidnapping and murdering David Glasser, Edward Frampton, and Robert Chadwell. The 3 men finally disappeared from their homes in Pittsfield in August 2011. 2 weeks later, their dismembered bodies were discovered in Beckett. Kalu had entered a plea of not guilty, and Donald Frank, his attorney, filed motions to prevent the testimony of purported jailhouse informants from being utilized as evidence. According to the informants, Kalu admitted to the murders and described the atrocities. Due to pretrial publicity in Berkshire County, Hall and Kalu were both tried in Hampton Superior Court in Springfield. Kalu's attorney requested for the trial to be moved further east after Hall was convicted. 3 Hells Angels. In Sonoma County, 2 members of the Hells Angel Motorcycle Club had been convicted in federal court for murder and aid for racketeering, and the 3rd angel was from Fresno. Jonathan Nelson, aka John 46, Russell Taylor Ott, aka Rusty 69 of Santa Rosa, and Brian Wayne Went 45 of Tulare were found guilty of killing one of their own members. They also seem to have taken part in conspiracy to commit murder. The Hells Angels Club in Sonoma County formed in 1972. They made some of their income by selling shirts, hats, and sweaters and other merchandise bearing the club's logo. They would also sponsor toy drives for children. 11 Hells Angels members were charged in 2017 with conspiring to commit crimes including murder, drug selling, assault, robbery, extortion, unlawful possession of guns, and obstructing the administration of justice. Nelson, Ott, and Went took part in the sweep and had been convicted of killing Joel Silva. He was a member who they determined was creating trouble for the motorcycle club. Silva's murder was arranged by Nelson, while Ott and Went headed down in Fresno. Ott drove Silva to Fresno on July 15, 2014. Ott told Silva he was heading there to fight the Fresno chapter's president in order to resolve his problems with the club. When they arrived, Silva was shot in the head. The next day, his body was incinerated at a local crematorium. While the trial was going to bring new information about the Hells Angels Club in Sonoma, witnesses testified that they were being threatened. Anyone who approached the police or reported about the motorcycle club's activities or served as witnesses, their families and them would face consequences. All 3 defendants are facing mandatory life sentences in prison. Maurice Bouche. Ex-Hells Angels chief Maurice "Mum" Bouche has been sentenced to 10 years after he pleaded guilty to conspiring to kill a former high-ranking mafia member, Reynold Desjardins. Bouche had 2 accomplices to help him assassinate Desjardins at St. Anne de Plains Penitentiary in 2015. Bouche never got to accomplish his plan and was arrested in his cell that year. Desjardins was also serving a sentence in St. Anne's de Plains for his role in killing the mob boss Salvatore Montana O'Shea's daughter, Alextra Manga, 28. Pleaded guilty to concealing money she knew was derived from the proceeds of a crime and was also given a 21-month sentence to be served in the community. The 10-year sentence will run concurrently with the life sentence Bouche is already serving for the 1987 murders of 2 prison guards. The sentence for the murder plot is the result of a joint submission by the Crown and Bouche's defense attorney. When given the opportunity to speak in court, Bouche declined, saying everything is fine. Well, that's all for today's video. If you haven't, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more.